Good evening, East Alabama and West Georgia. Dr. Don with you on your Friday evening as we are beginning to watch the some severe weather off to our west as we head toward 9:35 on the central side of the time zone. We've been watching a couple of areas of thunderstorm activity over in Mississippi that has really been causing problems this evening. Over in central Mississippi, we have a large, dangerous, confirmed tornado on the ground with lots of damage over there near Midnight and Silver City, Mississippi. That is to the north and now a little bit northeast of Yazoo City or due north of Jackson, Mississippi. Also up around Tupelo, Mississippi, we have a secondary cluster of thunderstorms that has had a history of developing tornadoes, and there is damage up there in northeastern sections of Mississippi as well. And we have a brand new tornado watch that does encompass parts of North Alabama, basically from just north of Tuscaloosa up to north of Birmingham. And then up to around Fort Payne. That covers places such as Huntsville, Coleman, Fort Payne, down to Jasper, Fayetteville, and Fayette, Alabama. And that tornado watch has just been issued by the National Weather Service, and that is in effect until, let's see, that tornado watch is in effect until 3 a.m. Tomorrow morning, Saturday morning. This tornado watch does not include any of our coverage counties across East Alabama or West Georgia at this hour. And the reason for that is the Storm Prediction Center is going to watch these storms and see the ones that are over there in Mississippi that are producing the tornadoes now certainly will move to the northeast and may affect northwest Alabama. Those particular storms would not affect East Alabama or West Georgia. But what we're going to be watching with interest over the next several hours will be to see what happens down here around Jackson, Mississippi, down to around Macomb and Hattiesburg. If we get storm development in that part of Mississippi, those would be the storms that could potentially affect us over here in East Alabama and West Georgia. At this hour, there's nothing there. But those storms could develop over the next couple of hours and then move into west and southwest Alabama and then eventually into East Alabama and West Georgia. The threat for severe weather across East Alabama and West Georgia is a little bit less than what we see over in West Alabama. If you'll give me just a second, I'll be able to show you that. We'll let this... I should go ahead and tell you that you should head over to our YouTube channel and subscribe and click that little bell if you hadn't already done that, so that you'll be guaranteed to get that push notification if we do go live in a few hours for wall-to-wall coverage. But this is the latest graphic, and this is what I really wanted to show you from the National Weather Service out of Birmingham, showing the levels of threat and the timing on what we could expect. Northwest Alabama stands the best chance of seeing violent tornadoes. We're seeing that in Mississippi, about to move into northwest Alabama at this hour. Then we'll see a slight risk of severe weather, basically from Birmingham down to around Alexander City, Clanton, and then a marginal risk of severe weather across most of Cleburne, Randolph, Clay, Coosa, Tallapoosa, Chambers, Lee, and then in Georgia, Harris, Troup, Hurd, and Carroll. Of our coverage area stand the best chance of seeing, a marginal chance of seeing severe weather after about 2 or 3 a.m. tomorrow morning. Now, tornadoes and damaging winds of up to 70 miles per hour are possible. The best chance for that will be in northwest Alabama. And then in the yellow area, there is also a chance of tornadoes and damaging winds up to around 60 miles per hour. And across East Alabama and West Georgia, tornadoes and damaging wind are not as likely, but they cannot be completely ruled out. So I know a lot of folks are going to be going to bed here in the next hour or two. And you need to make sure that you have a good way of receiving severe weather information in case we start to see severe weather across East Alabama and West Georgia. You know what I'm going to say. The best idea is to have a NOAA weather radio. That thing will wake you at 2 a.m. in the morning. It'll rattle you out of the bed. If you don't have one, as soon as you can get to a department store and get one, you'll be ready for our next possible severe weather threat, which could come Tuesday or Wednesday. Actually, we could have some strong thunderstorms on Sunday across East Alabama and West Georgia as well. So we're in that season. If you don't have a NOAA weather radio, you need to get one. They're relatively inexpensive, and they can certainly save your life, especially in these type of setups that we have going on right now, where we have the severe weather after midnight and before sunrise while most people are in the bed. So I just wanted to jump in here and spend a few minutes with you and kind of give you an update on what is going on at the moment and what we expect to happen as we go throughout the overnight hours. Again, we have some pretty serious weather taking place over in Mississippi. We have seen multiple reports of damage over there near Silver City, Mississippi, back over toward Midnight, Mississippi. This thing was on the ground for several hours, and it looked like we still have a tornado emergency taking place over there. And I'll just show you Winona, Mississippi, Duck Hill, Mississippi, back toward Carrollton, Mississippi. Places such as Silver City have already been under the gun and have taken some pretty serious damage over there. Still in the path of that storm would be Euphoria, Mississippi, Slate Spring, Mississippi. And that will continue on working off to the northeast. If it holds together for another hour or so, then it could end up in Alabama, near maybe Millport, Vernon, up to around Detroit, Alabama, anywhere over there in West Alabama, north of Reform, all the way up to the I-22 corridor would be under the gun for this particular thunderstorm cell over there in north central Mississippi. And then we have a second tornado on the ground. This one is going to be near Tupelo, Mississippi, just to the north and west of downtown Tupelo near New Albany, Mississippi. And that one is producing a tornado as well. It's moving off to the east, and that would, if it stays together for another 30 minutes or so, would be in the general area of Red Bay, Alabama. For those of you Wadley and Woodland football fans, you know where Red Bay's at. I think y'all been up there a time or two. So that is that's the first Alabama town that would be in danger of this storm, near Sherman, Mississippi, between Sherman and New Albany, up there on I-22 in northeast Mississippi. So we'll zoom back out. We'll show you the overall big picture, and you can see that the tornadic storms are basically well north of Yazoo City. Let me go back down to this storm. This is along I-55 north of, let's say north of Goodman, Mississippi, up around Winona, Mississippi, moving off to the northeast. Below that, we are beginning to see some stronger storms back around Yazoo, Mississippi, and down around Vicksburg. We're watching to see what happens along and south of the I-20 corridor over in Mississippi, because that's where we would expect storms to form that could potentially affect west and central and east Alabama as we head toward the wee morning hours of Saturday morning. At the moment, there's not a whole lot over there. But that could change over the next several hours. Brand new tornado watch just posted for north and northwest Alabama. That does not include any of our East Alabama or West Georgia counties at this time. That could change as we go throughout the evening. So now spend a few minutes reading comments in the chat room and see if there's any questions that I can answer for you. Sharon says that I guess this is going to be a long night. Yes, it's beginning to look that way. Lineville, Alabama's in the house. There's Roanoke. Wedowie's watching us this evening. Hey, Dan. Teresa says that Walmart has walkie-talkies that have NOAA on them. Comes with two, and that is correct. But because the signal in some parts of East Alabama and West Georgia is not, well, should I say, the strongest, I would encourage you to get the Midland base type weather radio that sits on your night table beside your bed. Now, if you happen to know that you have a very strong signal at your house from one of the NOAA weather radio transmitters, then those portable walkie-talkies would be fine. But I would encourage you to go with the desktop style Midland NOAA weather radios. Those are the best ones. That's the kind I've got. You put a battery in there. If you lose power, you're still operational. And those things have a much better antenna on them, and they can pick the signal up much further away. Rock Mills is in the house this evening. Albany, Georgia. How about that? Good evening, Albany. I have interest in Albany. So I keep a watch on your part of Georgia. Wedowie's watching us. Hey, Mary. Alexander City, there's Sharon. Teresa's watching us down in Auburn. Summer's watching us up in Wedowee. You're welcome, Roanoke. Cleveland, Chris Stearns is watching out in Cleveland, Mississippi. Good to have you, Chris. Hey, West Point Street, thank you. Levi's watching us in Cleveland, Mississippi. Yeah, Lafayette, you're in East Alabama. So what I said about East Alabama and West Georgia applies for you too. Nothing out there right now. If we see severe weather in East Alabama and West Georgia, it'll be after 2 a.m. Hey, James. I noticed several of you are posting, and all I see is Facebook user. So what you need to do to so that I'll be able to see who you are, you will see a post that will scroll here in the chat room occasionally that says, let me make sure it's still scrolling. It may not be. I may have to fix that. Yes. The post is from Restream.io, and it says, Facebook users, please go to, and there's a link there for you to click on, and allow Restream to show my name. If you are a Facebook user, and if you have not already done that, you need to so that I can see who you are. Otherwise, all I'm going to see is Facebook user. I can't tell who you are. It's perfectly fine to do that. We use Restream to rebroadcast our signal to all of our social platforms. And Facebook changed their rules about 6 months ago. And in order for us to see who you are through Restream, you have to give Restream permission to rebroadcast your name. So unless you click on that link and say yes, I'm not going to know who you are. And that's perfectly fine, too, if you don't want me to know who you are. All I see is your Facebook handle anyway, so. Trying to get home to Roanoke from Ocala. Will there be a good 8-hour window? Yeah, well, let's see, because that cold front's going to drape all the way down into Florida. Yeah, probably. It will probably move through East Alabama, the cold front itself, between 3 and 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. So, I mean, if you're coming home tomorrow, if you can hang out in Ocala till around noon, I think it'll be either there or past you by that time, and then you'll be okay. It's actually going to wash out across Georgia. So you're probably going to have to come through some showers. at some point, but the severe possibilities should lessen after about 9 or 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Same thing for Daviston. You're in East Alabama. After 2 a.m., we'll have the threat of severe weather across East Alabama and West Georgia. I don't think at this point the severe threat is going to be as significant as what we're seeing over in Mississippi at this point, but all modes of severe weather will be possible across East Alabama and West Georgia after about 2 a.m. tomorrow morning. I think by sunrise, it's all in Georgia. Hey, Brenda. Hey, Amy Holly, I see you. She's posting from YouTube. I see you fine. The deal I was just talking about was aimed at Facebook users only. If you're on YouTube, we can see you just fine. It's Facebook that needs to click on that link. Wedowee, Woodland after about 2 a.m. Carrollton, Georgia in the house. Hey, Lacey. Ross asking the $64 million question. How bad's it supposed to get in Lafayette? Ross, if I could tell you that with any great amount of accuracy, because I love to share, we'd all be rich. I can tell you there's a possibility of severe weather in Lafayette. That's about all I can give you. I don't think the threat in Lafayette is going to be as high as what we're seeing over in Mississippi, or as high as what I think we're going to see in northwest Alabama. But there is a threat for Lafayette, Alabama. And if it happens in your front yard, then that's the most significant threat there possibly could be. So this is just one of those cases where you got to be weather aware. You got to know there's a chance of severe weather in Lafayette and all across East Alabama and West Georgia after about 2 a.m. In the morning. Hey, Ann, watching us up there in Wedowee. Thank you, Dan Smith. I appreciate you. Gainesville, Georgia. There you go, Gainesville. I can't see who you are. It just says Facebook user. But you're only about 20 miles south of me. I'm actually in southwest White County, Georgia, just between Cleveland and Dahlonega. I'm originally from East Alabama and West Georgia, so that's why I provide weather coverage for that area. But I'm actually just north of you in Gainesville, Georgia. Lynette, Alabama. Hey, Amy. Wadley's in the house, the West Bank. Same thing for Alexander City, Bobby. All modes of severe weather possible after about 2 a.m. Tin Chops in the house. Hey, Christy. Pine Mountain, Georgia, over in Harris County. Hey, Linda. There's Carrie watching us up in Graham, Alabama. Section, Alabama. Hey, Renee. Big Springs over in East Randolph. There's Paige. Gail's watching us in Woodland. Agnes is watching us in Roanoke. There's Cam Warren. Hey, Cam, up in Folsom, Alabama. Clay County's in the house. Diane Wade's watching us in Roanoke. Hogansville, Georgia. You're in West Georgia. Same thing for East Alabama and West Georgia. Possibility of severe weather after about 3 a.m. Eastern time. You're in Hogansville, so you're on Eastern time. Hollis and Machieville. Thank you, Jonathan. What about Club? Hey, John. I promise I'm still considering making those T-shirts. Dr. Don, what about Club? Rock Mills is in the house. Sherry Daniel is watching us this evening. Roanoke, hey, Timothy. Russell Kirby's watching us in Roanoke. Opelika. Hey, Pamela. Jackson Gap. That's in East Alabama. Severe weather possible after about 2 a.m. There's Janice watching us in Opelika. Patricia's in Roanoke. Amy says, luckily for me, I live close to a tornado belt. Oh, Amy. Oh, Amy, you're going to get me on my soapbox, Amy. Do not rely on that outdoor warning siren to wake you when you're asleep at home inside your house in the middle of a thunderstorm. Somebody had to do it. That is extremely unsafe, Amy. I get you. I understand that thing probably rocks your entire house when it goes off. But you got to understand there's all kind of failure points on those sirens, and they're not designed to warn you indoors. That's why they're called, everybody say it together, outdoor warning sirens. Good thing you've got one close by, don't take me wrong. But have another way. I mean, make sure that you've got at least a good app on your phone, and any of the weather apps that give warnings and watches will work. There's no one app that's better than another. As long as it gives alerts, as long as it'll give you notification, it will work. Most apps now follow you wherever you go, and it'll warn you for the county you're in, or if you're in a warning polygon. Because I get that question all the time, too. The best idea, Amy, is to have a NOAA weather radio. So if you have an app on your phone, a NOAA weather radio, and you've got a tornado siren relatively close to your house, then you're covered pretty good. But do not rely on that outdoor warning siren. Kimberly is in Rock Stand. Ooh-wee. Those fighting words. Get Rock Stand and Rock Mills mixed up. Or Standing Rock. Hey, Marilyn Mayfield. I'm gonna be in here all night long. I'm gonna wrap this up in just a few minutes, but I'm gonna be monitoring this all night, and as soon as threatening weather moves in, I'll be right back with you. Geraldine's watching us in Daviston. Larry Duckworth is in Valley, Alabama. Sorry, Amy. Got on a soapbox there. Hey, Pamela. Well, Kim, we have tornadoes on the ground in Mississippi that's causing a lot of damage. I mean, we literally have a tornado emergency underway over there just to the west of Columbus, Mississippi. I was monitoring some data coming out of there earlier, and one of the storm spotters that was chasing that storm was monitoring a local fire department, and he said one of the volunteer firefighters keyed up on the radio and said catastrophic, like 3 times. And then unfortunately, shortly after that, the spotter was able to find a lot of damage, a lot of destroyed homes and a lot of damage over there west of Columbus, Mississippi, out around I-55. Near Silver City, Mississippi. Not a very big place, but a lot of damage over there. And that tornado is still on the ground. That's been going on now for well over an hour. And we have another tornado on the ground just north of Tupelo, Mississippi. Now, both of those storms will end up in northwest Alabama. So neither one of those particular tornadoes will be a threat for East Alabama, but we are monitoring the weather conditions south of the I-20 corridor or south of Jackson, Mississippi. That's along and south of Jackson, Mississippi is about where we would expect storms to form that could potentially eventually affect central and East Alabama and West Georgia. Right now, there's nothing down there, but the Weather Service does have a tornado watch box for that part of Mississippi, so they are anticipating storms to form down there as we go throughout the overnight hours. Fredonia, Alabama. Hey, good to see you folks down there in Fredonia. I know that y'all are awfully nervous about severe weather. You just went through it down there not too long ago. Hey, Cassandra. Yeah, it's been a long day up here in my part of the country. We had a search and rescue mission that went on all day. We had a pretty bad structure fire. It's been a very, very long day up here. So the weather's still a good, let's see, what time are we looking at here? Yeah, the weather's at least 5 hours away from East Alabama or West Georgia. We'll say 4.5 to 5 hours. So I'm not going to go wall to wall for the duration of the night, but I just wanted to jump in here and give you a quick update, and then I'll come back with you. I'm going to try to catch a couple of hours, and then I'll come back with you after about 2 a.m. if conditions warrant. Our hope is that we just don't see any development downstream that could potentially affect us across East Alabama and West Georgia, and we don't have to come back at all. But if it does, then we'll be right here with you. Deborah's watching us in Wadawi. Pamela in the Corinth, Foster's Chapel area. I have a little interest over there in the Corinth area too, Pamela, so we'll keep an eye on you. Thank you, Amy. Amy, we appreciate you watching us. Hey, Miss Lou, good to see you in there. Yeah, I know you guys just went through it down there too. I hope you guys make it through the night with no issues. Pittman, Alabama. Now, that's a new one on me. I lived in Randolph County for 22 years. I'm not really sure I ever heard of Pittman, but it's just south of Omaha. I know where that's at. Thank you, Pam. Hey, Deborah. Yeah, LaGrange is in West Georgia, same as East Alabama and West Georgia. Anytime after about 2 Central, 3 Eastern, that possibility of severe weather for LaGrange. Again, the Weather Service seems to think that the threat's not as high across East Alabama and West Georgia as it is back over West Alabama and back into Mississippi. But nonetheless, the threat is there. But it'll be after 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning before we see anything. Ranburne, Alabama's in the house. Hey, Marie Bailey. Good to see you. Jimmy Stevens. Hey, there's one of our partners. Without Mr. Jimmy and all of our partners you see scrolling at the bottom of the screen, we could not do this. So you guys, you take care of our sponsors. They take care of Dr. Don's weather, and we continue to be able to do this for you. It's how it works. So y'all, if you need any building construction, you get in touch with Jimmy Stevens. He can fix you up. Holly's watching us from Sand Mountain. Craig is up in Ranburne. Tammy is in Alexander City. Good Lord, Marie, I need one of the big old hugs. I miss you. All right, so if you've been keeping up with the weather over the last several days, you've noticed that the Storm Prediction Center has had central Mississippi in a moderate risk category for about the last 24 to 36 hours. And that is exactly where we're seeing these violent tornadoes this evening. Again, if you haven't been paying attention to the weather to our west, we have at least one violent tornado that's been on the ground now for approaching 2 hours north of Jackson, Mississippi, or north of Yazoo City. And it has caused a tremendous amount of damage over there. Very, very large. I believe we were getting information at one point that particular tornado was 1 mile wide on the ground, causing massive damage. That would be about, probably 50 to 75 miles to the west of Columbus, Mississippi. And then we have a second tornado, or a second thunderstorm complex that has produced multiple tornadoes up in northeast Mississippi along the I-22 corridor there just north of Tupelo. That's headed up into extreme northwest Alabama. The storm down in north central Mississippi that's caused all the damage, that's just west of Columbus, is headed for probably Haleyville, Alabama. It should cross into Alabama right there along the I-22 corridor, just inside the state of Alabama. So those storms were formed in the area that the Storm Prediction Center said the worst weather would be. And those two storms are going to move up into northwest Alabama, and those two particular tornadoes certainly will not affect our weather across East Alabama and West Georgia. They'll stay up in North Alabama. But what we're going to be watching for over the next couple of 2-3 hours is what happens down there around Jackson, Mississippi. Right now, there's just some scattered showers down there. But if we get any severe weather formation down around Jackson, that's what we would expect to move over into West Alabama, eventually over into Central Alabama, and then potentially into East Alabama and West Georgia. So that's the area to watch. If you're looking at the map, if you're looking at the screen, look down there around Jackson, Mississippi. Now, this area here, and that's what we want to watch. From Yazoo City south, maybe, is the area we want to watch, because if we start getting big storms down here, those would end up over in places like Selma, Dallas County, Chilton County, up around Clanton, Montgomery, Prattville, and then they would end up over in East Alabama and West Georgia. All storms are moving to the east-northeast this evening. And as you can see, in southern Mississippi, there's just not a whole lot happening right now, which is a good thing. We do have a few smaller showers, but nothing like what we're seeing up in North Mississippi. If we look back even further to the west, though, back into Louisiana, we are seeing some pretty big thunderstorms north of Jasper, Louisiana, or west of Alexandria, south of the I-20 corridor. And that could potentially end up over here in Alabama. My goodness, that's several hours away. That'd probably be more towards sunrise, or maybe even a little after sunrise, before something like that were to make it all the way over into East Alabama. So we got a ways to go. I mean, for the next foreseeable 4 to 5, maybe even 6 hours, nothing to be concerned about across East Alabama and West Georgia. Okay, I'm just having to check. I've got all kind of alarms and bells and whistles going off in the background. That's going to be for something locally up here, non-weather related. Let's see. Yeah, Pam's having to explain exactly where Pittman is now. Pretty much Springfield area on County Road 87. Yeah, well, I know where that's at. Long ago, it used to be called Pittman. Cool. Some maps still have it shown as Pittman. That's cool. Hey, Linda. Thanks for watching. Yeah, nighttime tornadoes are scary, Amy, because a tornado's hard to see in the south anyway. You know, everybody runs out on the front porch and they try to see what's going on with it, and that's a real dangerous thing to do anyway. But in the south, at night, tornadoes are often rain wrapped. You just can't see them. Okay, sorry, I had to trying to listen to a fire pager in the background, listen to the weather service, and talk to you guys all at the same time. Let's see. Let me look. We got a new severe outlook. Let me look at that right quick. Okay. Yeah, that's going to be northwest Alabama there. Okay. All right, folks. Yeah, really, Amy. It's been this way all day long. I really do. I've always said this, and I've been in radio and public safety simultaneously for a long, long time. And I'm telling you, there's something to it. When we have low pressure moving in, things happen. I'm talking, you guys would not believe the number of med calls we've had up here today. It's been insane. And then we've had several other things happen today as well. And we have this big front coming at us. I'm telling you, there's something to that. One day, somebody is going to figure that out and be able to explain why that is. When low pressure is moving in, our med calls go through the roof, and people start acting really, let's just say, out of control. We'll leave it at that. Hey, Bowden, Georgia, good to see you, Tara. All right, let me update you one more time, then we're going to step aside and monitor things for a while, and then we'll come back as soon as we think it's necessary. Ongoing, two distinct areas of very dangerous and serious weather taking place over in Mississippi. We have a tornado on the ground. It will be just to, let's see, let me get a good location here. I tell you what, let me switch over to the velocity. See if that's going to work for me. There we go. All right, so Belmont, Mississippi, just to the north and northwest of Belmont, Mississippi. We have a tornado on the ground. Yeah, there it is. Would be in this general area. May actually have two. That looks more significant up there than the southern storm, honestly. All right, and that's going to move over into northwest Alabama, probably a little bit north of Red Bay, and up around Cherokee. This is northwest Cherokee up in northwest Alabama. So you folks up there around Russellville, Muscle Shoals, Florence, up there around Waterloo, heads up. You got some nasty weather coming your way, and you need to really pay attention to this stuff over the next hour or so. If you folks in East Alabama or West Georgia know someone who lives up there in extreme northwest Alabama, you call them and give them a heads up. Make sure they're aware of what's going on. That whole area of northwest Alabama just went under a severe thunderstorm warning. And that may very easily be upgraded to a tornado warning here at any moment. That area is also under a tornado watch until 3 a.m. tomorrow morning. And then we have this tornado that's been on the ground now for about 2 hours. That is going to be let's see. It's really out in the middle of nowhere at the moment. Walthall, just to the north east of Walthall, Mississippi. To the west of West Point, Mississippi. Just to the south and southwest of Woodland, Mississippi. Don't get that confused. Aberdeen, Mississippi would be in line for this particular storm. Now, this is the storm that has been on the ground for about 2 hours and has caused significant damage, confirmed significant damage, down around Winona, up around Carrollton, Mississippi, and then also back toward Silver City. I've seen some damage out of Silver City. It's ugly. And so we know that we have damage taking place with this one. It's confirmed. There's storm spotters that are chasing this thing. I've seen live video of it. It's pretty bad over there. So if that continues moving off to the northeast and holds together, and at this point you got to believe that it will, It's going to end up over in Sulligent, Alabama, maybe Detroit, Hamilton. These are all up there in northwest Alabama. None of these two, neither one of these two storms will affect us here across East Alabama or West Georgia. So now let's go back to the reflectivity and let's do something here. Let me go take a look at the Jackson radar. All right, this is the Jackson, Mississippi radar, and what we're looking for would be severe storms, basically from Yazoo City down to around Macomb, Mississippi. And right now, we're not seeing anything. This would be the area of Mississippi that we would expect storms to move into from Mississippi into West Alabama, Central Alabama, and then maybe eventually into East Alabama and West Georgia. Right now, we are seeing some, but we don't see any organized severe weather down here. So we'll be watching over the next couple of hours to see if these storms are growing in intensity and in coverage as they move off to the east. We are beginning to see some strong storms out there on I-20 near Rushton or Monroe that could go severe. So we are beginning to see a few storms pop down here. So that's what we're going to be watching for. And if we start to see that trend over the next couple of hours, then I'll come back and give you another update as we get a little bit closer to our window of opportunity, which starts after about 2 a.m. Tomorrow morning and will continue through around sunrise tomorrow morning. Thank you, Cody. Amy, you're 100% correct. And what's even more insane is when you have neighboring states who have the same name counties, not too terribly far apart, such as the case with Randolph County, Alabama, Randolph County, Georgia, Clay County, Georgia, Clay County, Alabama, and there are several more. The Randolph and Clay in Georgia is down here south of Columbus, and the Randolph and Clay for Alabama is just north of Columbus. I mean, it's crazy. I don't know what they were thinking. I don't think they ever thought about social media back in the day when those counties were named, but it's confusing sometimes. But anyway, so that's where we stand right now. New tornado watch for North Alabama. No watches or warnings for East Alabama. If we're going to have severe weather across East Alabama and West Georgia, it'll be well after 2 a.m. Central, 3 a.m. Eastern. For you folks over in Georgia, we are monitoring here in Dr. Don's weather, and as soon as we see conditions starting to deteriorate, or if we see that we see something that tells us that there is a really good chance we're going to have severe weather, then of course I'll be right back with you, and we will continue with severe weather coverage here on Dr. Don's weather. Thank you all for joining me. Hopefully I won't have to come back, but if so, we'll see you then on Dr. Don's weather.